Now, one of the things I always take a lot of pride in, and I'm not sure I'm able to pass any of this on, but I'll give it a try. I always try to arrange my workbenches here, and of course we're pretty crowded right now because Mark's job is very labor intensive, and we're trying to do it in a systematic way. But what's happened here is we've reached a point with the job where we need a day to paint. I have the blue paint, the two fairings ready for blue, and I have some of the side covers ready for white. But what's happened is we're waiting for a good spray day. It's pouring rain out there now, and I never want to rush any of this work. So rather than just waste the day, or I don't want to do any more body work on these parts until I get some of these painted and out of here, because we're just too crowded so to really work efficiently. But I do have another little project I wanted to work on at the same time, so I'm going to try to get some of that done today. Now, over the years, some of my friends have wondered, how do I get so much done with such a little bit of work area and what seems to be a pretty busy lifestyle? Well, one of the secrets is to do everything efficiently. It sounds like this would be pretty self-explanatory, but it isn't. What I always try to do is I get up in the morning, I look at the weather. If it's a day I can paint or ride, I want to do that. But about this time of year, about 1/3 of the time that we're here, it's like now, and you can't paint or ride, so we always have our other projects. So what we're going to do today, because of the rain, and it's supposed to rain for the next 2 days, I thought, well, one of the things, I always have projects waiting in the bullpen here. I have my other silver wheel that I want to put the green paint on. I kind of looked at this for a week or so, and the more I looked at it, the more I liked it. So I think, in keeping with the overall theme of the bike, I think I will paint the other wheel. I'll strip this. See, what I have is a spare set of wheels, so I don't even have to lay the bike up. But I'll pull this apart today, pull the tire off, and prep it all up. Just take a break from Mark's job, because we're at kind of at a watershed there. And I did have, a plan to do this at some point in time, but the weather has kind of given me an opportunity to at least get the other wheel ready today. That was really great the other day. We went for a 2-stroke ride, and Steve joined us with his Vigione, but it just reminded me, and I guess Karen reminds me all the time, just every one of these bikes, whenever I've gotten them, I'm never really satisfied in the beginning. And I guess the green bike's just another good example of it. It's in an ongoing process of changing things, modifying things. We changed the paint on that recently, among other things. Made all kind of various camera mounts. Found out this one is the best of all of them, that's for sure, at least so far. And one of the other projects, I doubt we're going to get to do this year. I wanted to make a set of gold wheels for the 650. I did get to do the wheels on the R1. They're already out on the YouTube channel. And I guess the last of the projects for this year is going to be, because again, we're going to run out of time. The full riding season is coming very soon. I want to get that wheel in green. So without trying to make a long, intense video about this, because we've done it so many times, even so many times this year, the first step on this is going to be, obviously, to let the air out of the tire, pull the valve, snap the tire off, get the discs off, and then get this wheel downstairs with the tire balancer and get it prepped up, so that what's going to happen is eventually, one of these days, it's going to stop raining. And when it does stop raining, we'll have a lot of stuff ready to paint. We'll have the fairings, we'll have this wheel. Tom may have his stuff in prime by then. He's been working on his stuff, I think. He's got his scooter parts ready to paint. So the point I wanted to make is we always have a lineup of projects to work on here, and we try to keep it in a reasonable order, and I try to share whatever I learn along the way, and believe me, I almost never work on any project without learning something. There's a lot to learn and a lot to share. Now, as I say about multitasking here, the lovely Mrs. Ertnowski is making the brisket. What do we have, 13 pounds of brisket here?
Yes.
13 pounds of brisket going in the oven. It's making me hungry just thinking about it. So while I'm changing tires and preparing wheels, she's preparing 13 pounds of brisket. Hard not to like Mrs. Ertnowski. Now another little thing that I do, and I try to share all the things that I've figured out over the years, is to just have everything organized. All the parts you need. I have spares for almost everything. All the wedges I need, all the tools to change tires, some extra balancing weights. But it's all, here's the point, it's all in one of these little containers you can get from the container places. It's got a lid. And when I put that away, when I'm going to change a tire, I take that out, change a tire, and put it away. It's all self-contained. The parts, the tools aren't all over the shop, and some I can't find, and I like having it organized just like that, similar to that. And by the way, as we're talking about organized, here's all the polish and things, and I think when we went up to Vince's one time, I call it the laundry basket. It's an old laundry basket, all the buffing wheels, all the polish, everything. But when I'm going to go to somebody's A-team meeting or something where we're going to polish, I've got it all in one bucket. And if I want to move it to the cellar, pick it right up. But when you have stuff all over the place, just makes it more difficult. And by the way, one of the things I always find, and again, the whole objective is to make it easier, is to pull the discs off while a tire is still on. It just makes handling it a lot easier. And once you have the tire off, getting the discs off, it's hard to hold a wheel unless you have a helper. And most of the time I'm working in the shop, I'm working alone. I try to gear everything toward being able to do everything with a one-man band. Now one of the decisions I have to make with this when I paint this is this center section of the wheel, which when I did these in black, I got to decide if I want to have that green in there or when I'm all done paint it black. And if I do paint it black, shiny black or flat black, so I can give that some thought in the time that I'm taking this whole thing apart and prepping it. See, in some wheels you don't see it. On the GS, on the EBC rotors, it's all polished, but on some of them, and on the R1 especially, and I do remember this, you do see that inner part. So, well, every bike's a little different, but we do want to give some thought to that as we're doing the prep for this. Now another little tip that makes getting a tire off, I think, just a little bit easier is just before I do it, I spray simple green around the edge of the rim. What happens as soon as you break the bead, that works its way right in there, and when you go to tire iron it off, it's already got some soap on it. Just makes it, this little couple extra squirts of simple green make this go a lot smoother. Also, I put some microfibers underneath because these, again, I don't want to scratch these rims. That's another. The whole reason for doing it this way is I don't want to scratch the rims. So the next step is 400 wet and dry. And what's going to happen with this hole, I want to get the edge of the rim really done well. Any little chips or dings, remember this wheel has been in service for 2 years. We've got simple green mixing in with the water here. And what's the difference between if we had a wheel that was never painted or a wheel that didn't have our paint on it? If it had some other paint, I would want to go back down, right down to bare metal. But in the case of this wheel, I know I've got a good bond. I've had it sanded and primed and everything is just about the way I want it. So I'm not too worried about that, about the bond. I just want to get any little flaws that are in here, and of course a wheel takes a beating, and so this will just be one of these cases of I'll have to spend a good amount of time in here, rinse it 4 or 5 different times, get it all as dull as possible. The whole idea is to get this prepped up so in the next paint day we have, I can just shoot the green and shoot the clear. If I have it all prepped up, that'll be wonderful. I may even steam clean this because I see it is pretty greasy. There's no doubt about it. But simple green, and just if there's any spots that don't look like they're coming clean, I can use a little SOS pad on them. But anytime I spend prepping this up now, it's going to be worth every penny. Because once this is prepped up and we have it backmasked, I'll sleep better tonight. And in essence, and I just wanted to make the point that I'm trying to make is that all of this stuff, we are ready for the next day that it's not pouring rain. You never know when that's coming. Maybe it's a week, maybe tomorrow. We never know. But if we're all prepped up and ready to go, I can get Mark's 2 fairings painted. If Mark gets here with the guns in the next couple of days, I can shoot the white. And on the wheel, I can shoot the green. And so that's the whole objective here, is to be prepped and ready. And I think we're going to have it by the end of the day. And we have to, because the baby's coming later today. Now I want to clean up the inside of this grid by the pan a little bit. It's really probably a little overkill to do that, but hey, we'll do it anyway. Now, the first time I painted these wheels, I never did in here. I didn't bother with it because I didn't realize that this would be a part that you'd really see. So now what I'm going to do, since this part is not painted, I'm going to sand it. I have a little tool that John Pothier made me years ago, little discs to go on there, and I want to sand these smooth if I can, get it as smooth as possible, and maybe even get a coat of primer in there so I can sand this down and get rid of the casting marks. A little detail, but it's something that you're going to see. What this is a thing you can buy. I think it's a tool you can buy commercially or in Harbor Freight. And what John did, he turned the shank down so it fits in a Dremel tool. So it's very handy for doing this kind of work. Extremely handy. And what it allows me to do, it allows me to dress off some of those casting marks. And I just think when this is primed, I want to get rid of these. These are how they load the, when they make a casting, the sprues. So once I get that smooth, I'll hand sand the rest of it. And then once I get all of these done and then prime this whole inside, I have to backmask it. It's for another day. But I will try to get some of this done today, maybe even clean up in here a little bit, because you do see that. And I will put a couple coats of primer in there, because the primer will fill that. And that'll be just one more little detail thing. They'll make this a little bit nicer than the job the first time we did it. We didn't really take that into consideration the first time. And what's funny is your eye is a funny thing. It can catch little mistakes. You don't think so, but it really is. And that's a little detail. What's going to happen when that has clear on it, the light will pick that up, and it'll be, as the wheel is turning, it'll start to look like the same way when a woman flashes a diamond ring in front of you. It'll have some little facets. We'll get in here by hand, I think, the most practical way. Maybe I'll make some kind of little tool for that, but getting that in there, and I noticed while the bike was in the garage and all put together that you do, I can't believe the first time I painted the wheels, I didn't really, well, the second time, I really never got to see that in there. So now I know that that's kind of something I have to deal with. And getting rid of those casting sprues, just one more little step makes it nicer. But obviously this will have to be primed. No, I'm almost ready for lunch now.
No, a biscuit with your lunch.
Yeah, one. She doesn't feed me. It's terrible. It is time for lunch. It's time to get the baby. Time to steam clean the wheel. Get that last little bit of goop off of it. Actually, we've used the steam cleaner for about 100 different things already. I put some tissue in by the bearings so I wouldn't get any steam in there. It really does a nice job. I've used it to clean the motorcycle after riding in a heavy salted area. Here's where it's really good. Down in these little nooks and crannies, You can never get with a rag. And this wheel has a lot of little nooks and crannies and facets, and we're going to try to make it even better with that center section. When that's all cleaned up, polished, primed, sanded. Even that center of the wheel, we'll get the whole thing done. How many pounds of meat is that, Karen? Wow.
13.
13? Unbelievable. Whew.
But when you clean it up, you lose a couple.
Yeah. Well, we could eat it all in one sitting now. Now this is pretty funny, and we really did use this day to our good advantage, but as you probably know, we have to go get our grandson. And we do have a lot of, well, we still got a back masket. I still have to do a little detailing on that center, prime the center. And Mark's stuff is ready. I'm kind of really looking forward to if we ever, heaven forbid, get a real painting day. But we did manage to use this day to good advantage, and I hope I've given you some ideas of some efficiencies you might be able to use in your own, passion for motorcycling, passion for life, passion for FZ600s or whatever. But anyway, we do have to, and it's always the last part of our day, the last 4 or 5 hours of the day here. We'll be babysitting, so I always like to look over the progress we made. This will all be polished up, cleaned up, bolts, heads of the bolts polished before we put it back together. But as Karen has just reminded me, it's lunchtime, and right after lunch, we go get the baby. You made a plan. Now, what are we going to use this plan for? Is that the awards we're going to have for the dog show? We got awards for the dog show. What do we got here? Cardboard dino trucks? What do we got?
Grandpa, can you stop it?
No. Look at what happens. The baby's playing. All Mark's stuff winds up on the treadmill. Come on, let's make something.